How many times did we hear that Donald Trump was our free speech warrior, guys? That he was going to come in and he was going to protect the First Amendment, because if we didn't have the First Amendment, well, then we are not a free people. How many times did we hear that from people in the MAGA movement? And what have we seen since Donald Trump came into office? We've seen him going after pollsters because they did a poll that he doesn't like. He's going after different news agencies because he didn't like the way a Kamala Harris interview was edited and presented in two different formats. He's basically running a protection racket of these news agencies. He files a lawsuit against them, then uses the FCC, threatens to block mergers unless they comply in the private settlement. So he's basically extracting millions of dollars from these news agencies like ABC, PBS, possibly others. And I haven't heard anybody in the MAGA movement crying foul with these attacks on the First Amendment from Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is the most anti-free speech president that our country has ever seen. And it's not even close. It's not even close. And in the latest attack on the press, we now see that Terry Moran, a senior correspondent from ABC, has now been suspended because he spoke out on his personal Twitter account against Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. That is what we are seeing in Trump's America. Let's go ahead and get a quick update as to the Terry Moran story, and then I want to show you what he had to say about Stephen Miller and Donald Trump that MAGA is so up in arms about. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
ABC News is suspending its senior national correspondent, Terry Moran. A company spokesperson confirmed in a statement that Moran has been suspended pending further evaluation. It comes after the journalist described top Trump aide Stephen Miller as a, quote, world-class hater in a since-deleted post on his personal social media account. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt joined Fox News Sunday, claiming that Moran's comments are fueling distrust in news media.
This is unacceptable and unhinged rhetoric coming from someone who works at a major television network. We have reached out to ABC. They have said they will be taking action, so we will see what they do. But I think this speaks to the distrust that the American public have in the legacy media.
Now, we're going to get to Caroline Leavitt's interview in just a few minutes. But what she said there, it's absolutely insane. And we are now living in an environment with Donald Trump as our president where the Trump administration can call a private news agency and a senior correspondent is being suspended. If that is not an attack on free speech, I don't know what is. Where are you at, MAGA? When are you going to stand up for your principles of the First Amendment? Where are you at? And I want to go ahead and show you what Terry Moran had to say. And let me remind everybody, this was on his personal Twitter account. He wasn't using any ABC properties. He wasn't using any ABC Twitter accounts. This was his own personal Twitter account. So let's go ahead and take a look at what exactly he said. He says, the thing about Stephen Miller is not that he is the brains behind Trumpism. Yes. Sorry. Hold on. Sorry. Yes, he is one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translates them into policy, but that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains. It's bile. Okay? Miller is a man who is richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He is a world-class hater. You can see this just by looking at him because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred is only a means to an end. And that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. So, obviously, those are some harsh words. But for an ABC senior correspondent to be on his personal Twitter account making these declarations or these statements or his opinions, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? This is the type of speech that is supposed to be protected. But because he was, giving his opinion on Stephen Miller, in Donald Trump. You now have the Trump administration calling over to ABC, hoping that they will take some sort of action against Terry Moran because Donald Trump got his little feelings hurt. Again, MAGA, where are you at? Just because a reporter on his own personal time says something that you don't like doesn't mean we should be going after his job. We haven't seen Terry Moran, inject this type of opinion into his reporting. If he has, I haven't seen it. If somebody wants to point that out to me, that would be fine. But this is a reporter on his own personal time giving his opinion about Stephen Miller. And I might say that it's quite accurate. Stephen Miller is a hateful, bigoted individual. And I think what he says there about Stephen Miller eats his hate, that the hate is his spiritual nourishment, seems quite accurate to me. Donald Trump, on the other hand, he's a very hatred guy. However, his personal or spiritual nourishment is his own glorification, which we all know to be true. Donald Trump only cares about Donald Trump. And I mean, he proves that day in and day out. So, sure, was this a harsh opinion? Yeah. Who cares? Who cares? But now Terry Moran has been suspended from ABC because we had the Trump administration call over to ABC expecting them to take action. And I want to go ahead and get to that Caroline Leavitt interview because, like they said, she went over to Fox News to speak out against what Terry Moran had to say. And what she says here is just pretty antithetical to our First Amendment wholeheartedly. I mean, here she is pretty much admitting that, of course, that they called ABC about this tweet.
About it, and you say last night in a since deleted post, so-called journalist Terry Moran went on a rampage against Stephen Miller. What happened, Caroline?
Well, ABC is going to have to answer for what their, again, so-called journalist put out on Twitter in the wee hours of the night, calling Stephen Miller vile. They said that President Trump is a world-class hater. And this is, again, coming from someone who is supposed to be an unbiased and professional journalist. This is unacceptable and unhinged rhetoric coming from someone who works at a major television network. We have reached out to ABC. They have said they will be taking action, so we will see what they do. But I think this speaks to the distrust that the American public have in the legacy media. And it's why in the White House press shop and in President Trump's White House, we have made so many significant and much needed changes to press access and transparency at the White House. We've invited in new media. We have shaken up the White House press pool.
So she wants to say that it's unhinged rhetoric, it's unacceptable, that he's a journalist who's supposed to be unbiased. Who the fuck cares? Even if Terry Moran showed up at ABC News and he injected his opinion into the news like that, that is protected by the First Amendment. That's what it means to be for free speech. Just because he is a journalist doesn't mean he is unable to espouse his own opinions. Just because he is a journalist and you think that America has lost, all of their trust in mainstream media, doesn't mean that you get to go control how ABC gets to manage their team of people. I mean, what she is saying here is just absolutely insane. They continue to accuse the Democrats of being communists, but what do we see out of this Trump administration? They're dipping their hands. They're trying to meddle in private industry all over the country. Look what they're doing to Harvard. Look at what they're doing now to ABC. You've got Trump administration trying to exert control over these private companies because they hurt his feelings. I mean, what is going on here, folks? Caroline Leavitt goes on to say that we hope that Terry Moran is actually fired.
And so we will continue to keep or hold journalists accountable. All we're asking for is truth and transparency. That's it.
Of course. And you said ABC is going to take action. What do you expect that action to be?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, hopefully this journalist will either be suspended or terminated. You cannot go on these unhinged rants against administration officials and the president of the United States. And then clearly he knew he was wrong because he deleted the post as soon as he allegedly woke up this morning.
They're just fascist little freaks, guys. This is fascist control. This is what it looks like. You have the press secretary for the president of the United States coming out and saying that this guy shouldn't be allowed to speak his opinion. He shouldn't be allowed to speak out against this administration just because you can't talk bad about the administration, guys. And what does it mean? Oh, he deleted it as soon as he allegedly woke up the next morning? I mean, what the hell are these people talking about? These people are insane. They are unprincipled losers. They should be mocked and made fun of. They don't care about free speech. All they care about is furthering Donald Trump's agenda. And if that means reaching their hand into Harvard and trying to have control over the hiring and firing decisions, if that means reaching their hand into ABC and trying to get journalists fired because they said something that the administration doesn't like, well, then so be it. It's completely antithetical to the First Amendment. It's completely antithetical to the values that we are supposed to hold in this country for free speech. And now you've got a president of the United States who's trying to get journalists fired because they spoke out against this hateful and bigoted authoritarian regime. Them's the cards. That's where we're at. So I'll leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against all of this fascist nonsense from the Trump administration that the right-wing media pushes day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. And if you guys want to see another Republican getting their face ripped off at their own town hall, even after Republican leadership said, hey, town halls are off limits, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.